I have tons of ideas, many ideas that will not see the light of day. But what if I built an application that could help me to know which ideas are better and which ones are worse? That's why I created Valiid. At the moment, it's pretty basic. We're just going to post an idea, get a poll, get a feel for things, you know, how people are liking the idea, if they hate it or not. And from those polls, you should be able to see whether or not you should focus on that idea or not. But in the future, I'd love it to be a way of networking. That way, if you have an idea and someone else finds that idea interesting, they can kind of connect with one another and make something happen. Or even potentially in the future, if they want to like raise funding or something like that, they can do that through the application as well. But before we talk about all that stuff, let's talk about how we made the MVP. Or in other words, the minimum viable product, which is right now just a polling system for your ideas. And if you want a more in-depth, like how I built everything, a walkthrough through the entire process, that'll be linked down in the description down below, where I built an entire course walking you through it. So the entire application was built using Swift UI, and then the back end where it holds all the data and whatnot, that's going to be handled with Firebase. Why did I choose those two? It's because, well, Swift UI, I believe, is partly the future. I think it's the way that Apple wants to go. But at the same time, it's very easy for you to just get an idea and build it. So that's why I went with Swift UI. And I went with Firebase because I don't really have much of a clue when it comes to building backend services. And Firebase kind of handles things really well. They have great SDK, so it's like easy plug and play to get things going. So been doing it for years, so I stick with it. Now that we know what the application was built on top of, we need to talk about kind of the structure behind everything. So each idea in the backend is going to have a few things that structure it. They're each going to have a category. They're all going to have a date as to when they were uploaded. They're also going to have an idea name. So I believe as you're building the idea, the name is important. That way you can look up domains and other stuff that are related to it potentially. And then you have the idea text, which is essentially just describe your idea. I think in the future, I would love to get into more like concept designs and stuff like that, where people can actually like upload images and people can kind of look at those images and go through that. But that's a whole nother thing that we can potentially add on later. And then of course, each post is going to be attached to a user. Right now for a user, we don't store basically anything. We kind of just have their image and a name. So each user is going to have a profile image and just a name attached with them. And then for the voting system. So I wanted to make this very simple, where we have 3 levels. I don't want there to be like a like, dislike, because that doesn't tell me much in terms of things. But there's 3 levels. So some of them might be neutral, some of them might love the idea, and some of them might not. So each user has the ability to vote and respond to any idea on the platform. And that's also why if you download the application right now, each person has to have an email and password in order to log in. I could potentially in the future make it where each person kind of just is automatically logged in with an anonymous ID into the application, but it gets complicated. Like what if they open it up in a separate device, or what if, for instance, if I ever built like a website, how is that cross-platform going to work? So lots to think about in that area, but we could potentially make it happen. And yeah, that's kind of it when it comes to the structure of the application. Again, super basic MVP to start, but I did want to spend quite a bit of time when it comes to the interface. So there's a few elements that I'm super proud of. So for the home screen, you have this parallax view that kind of swipes between the different data models. I think it looks pretty great, and it's an interesting take on just swiping through data. Rather than making it a horizontal scroll view like you would normally see in like the App Store, where you just scroll between different items and they're all horizontally laid out, I put everything so it's in a Z stack. So everything is stacked on one another. And then depending on its location, I shift it and put an offset and also change the size of it to give it the look that it has. And I think it turned out really nice. The only thing about it is Swift UI with drag gestures, not the greatest thing. So you'll probably notice like you can probably swipe on the card that's behind the front card. So that's something that needs to be fixed. If you swipe too fast, things kind of grow and get out of order, but they automatically fix themselves once you like start swiping normally. It just don't abuse the application. In the end, that's kind of how Swift UI is at the moment, that as long as you use the application in a normal manner, you're gonna be fine. But the moment you start like abusing it and just clicking randomly in all certain locations, you might encounter a few bugs here and there. But hey, that's not my fault. At least I don't think. It could be. And then again, the profile page, I don't have much information stored in the backend, so all you see is the profile image and the name, and then you also have my liked ideas, and then you also see a list of your ideas. So I made it so that if you love an idea, it'll be saved, but if you're just like hesitant about the idea or don't like it, then it won't be saved. I think that's great for potentially in the future seeing like where an idea goes. Like if you love this idea, maybe that idea can then potentially post updates on what happened, if they went further with the idea, or if it was just canceled altogether, or if they raised funding, who knows. But it's an interesting way to follow along with project ideas. Then lastly, to post an idea, it's pretty simple. It's just text fields upon text fields. You select a category. I have a preset list of, I think, 10 items inside of categories that people can choose. And then just a small visual thing that this was completely Blake's idea, that if you have a swipe to unlock, I thought of bringing that back, where you swipe to post your idea. And I think it turned out pretty cool. I mean, just look at it. In future Jared here, it was actually fairly simple to make this view. All it really is a Z-stack, in which if the view you're dragging goes far enough, then it goes the rest of the way, and if it doesn't, then it goes back to the original position. Super simple, just a quick if statement, and it produces a pretty great result. And there you have it. That is how I built Valiid. It was pretty quick. Simple, easy. I'm thinking of potentially making this open source so that if people want to go further with this idea, they can also contribute to the idea a bit more, but we will see. I need to figure out how to run an open source community, and I have no idea how to do that. And I should say, like, if you know how to do an open source thing, feel free to reach out to me, because I would love any help, and that would be awesome if we could make this work. But I have a lot of ideas, and I should just be able to create simple MVPs like this, and hopefully this inspired you to potentially make your MVP, because it doesn't take much. You can just literally fire up Firebase, make things happen, and sort of in terms of the back end, just to get your idea out there. And then if you want to go further with it, then invest in technologies, learn about new things. It gets interesting. But this right now is the basic starting point of Valiid, and who knows, maybe next year we'll do an update on how it goes. We'll see if the project moves forward or if it's just dead in the water by next year. We'll see. I'll probably won't make a video if that happens. In any case, thanks for watching, keep on coding, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.